Today's episode of the Happy Not Satisfied podcast is brought to you by Perform America. Perform America is based out of Texas and focuses on travel for any kind of group. While they specialize in performance-based tours, they can help with groups of all ages and of any kind, from bands to choirs, dance groups to church youth groups, and beyond. I've personally used and worked with Perform America in my former job as a high school band director in San Antonio, Texas, and was always blown away. Their director of operations, Damian Gonzalez, personally planned several trips for our band, including to the Macy's Parade in New York, where we traveled with 400 students and 800 parents to New York City. The trip went off without a hitch, and it was due in large part to Damian. So be sure to visit perform-america-tx.com for more information. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Happy Not Satisfied podcast. My name is Dan Morrison, and I'm the founder of Happy Not Satisfied and host of this podcast. So today we have an incredible guest, someone that's a super close friend of mine, and a person that, with such niche backgrounds, we certainly share a lot of similarities in what we do and what we sort of value in life. He is the CEO and owner of SASI, which is an amazing leadership organization for students. He and I both help put together competitive marching band shows for high school marching bands. He's a clinician, he's an entrepreneur, and like I said, he's one of my closest friends. So I'm thrilled to introduce Jeremy Spicer. Jeremy, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. So it's funny because when I tell people the bit about, like, I help put together marching band shows, they're like, you must be the only person in the planet that does that. I'm like, actually, I'm not.
And not at all.
It's not even close. It's funny, these sort of small worlds that once you get into them are actually big worlds. But no, this is proof that there are other people that do this work, and it's really rewarding and really fun. Yeah, exactly. I think before we jump into some of the meat and potatoes of what's going to go on today, I would love, because you do so many unique and cool things that I think most people probably aren't super familiar with, would just kind of love to hear more about that, like what a day or a week or a month or just like what your life looks like right now.
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on the quote-unquote season or what part of the year, and I think that's probably with anybody. But right now, it's kind of decompressed before we amp it up again. Like you said, I do marching band design. In addition to that, I do curriculum design for the student leadership company that we run, SASI. So now is the time where all of that is going to kind of start taking off. So a day in the life is me doing a lot of reading and researching right now, at least, about what we're doing and how we're going to move forward. So if we're going to talk about the marching band thing, I send out some pretty detailed surveys to my clients that I am fortunate enough to work with, and they give me a lot of information that helps guide me to put something together that I know that they will like and that their communities will like. And sometimes it's very specific, and sometimes it's more generalized, and a lot of it is left to me to decide. So it's just a lot of research, it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of on the internet, on the computer, looking around and seeing what I can come up with. And it's the same kind of thing with the leadership curriculum that we're about to kick off for this coming summer. There's the team of us that writes the curriculum together, and for right now, at least, I have the broad stroke of what the concept is going to be, and then we'll get in the weeds more throughout the spring. But it usually right around now is where I decide what that's going to look like and feel like moving forward, and then some of the global things that I want the students to take out of it. And then I'll take that to some of the curriculum design team, and we will start hashing it out over the next several months. So now it's a lot of just planning. It's a lot of organization. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of planning. Other parts of the year, it's out doing the thing. Like it's making sure that if we're talking about the leadership company, that we have, I think, 20 or 30 of us, but I don't remember the exact number of people, but it's making sure everyone has the things that they need to be successful for the camps that they're facilitating. It's making sure that the band directors know what's going on and when we're going to be there and all of that. So organizational side of things. And then I am still, and I will always be a boots on the ground kind of person in that I'm going to get out and teach the curriculum. I'm not just going to sit behind my computer and do that. So I'm out basically from late April through August, I'm on the road. In some capacity, I've dialed that back significantly, but in some capacity, I'm on the road teaching camps to students around the country, which is fun, a lot of fun. And then moving forward into the fall, I'm out in band halls. So being a former band director, I'm out in band halls, being able and getting the opportunity to work with students on the shows. Sometimes the shows that I put together myself with the teams that I'm a part of, and other times it's just as a clinician where I just get to go in and help people where other people such as yourself or other designers have put together the shows, and I just get to come in and play in their playground a little bit and just listen to what the kids are doing and watch what they're doing and get feedback that way. And then it's just rinse repeat. And it's nice. I get to build my own calendar, do what I want to do for the most part when I want to do it, which is a nice place to be for sure. All the while helping kids and students. So it's kind of, that's my overarching umbrella to it all. Is that well, I guess for SASI, and the vision of SASI is that one person can make a difference, but one small group of determined people can change the course of history. That's a quote by Sonia Johnson. I want to give that to her. But that's kind of how I live, and changing the course of history and where we are in history. And I think if we can impact young people's lives for the better, our vehicle being music, but there are, some teachers' vehicles are math, and some teachers' vehicles are football, and some are choir, and some are theater, and some are all of the above. And then being able to do what we do in the summers with impacting young students and trying to give them some skill sets that will take them beyond the band halls that they're in, and the orchestra halls that they're in, and the choir rooms that they're in, and that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. I mean, I think it's safe to say you have a lot going on. I have a few follow-ups to all of that. So first of all, just to give a little more context, because I know you're not going to say it about yourself, but as a band director, it's another thing that we share. We're both former high school band directors, kind of another specific thing that both of us have done. But as a band director, you had the highest levels of success you could, winning the state marching contest and doing all kinds of incredible things. And as a designer, clients have won Grand Nationals, which is the biggest contest in the world, and marched in the Macy's parade and done all of these amazing things. And then beyond that, you can help fill in the numbers here. How many students participated in these leadership camps for SASI, like the first year that you did it?
The very first year,
yeah,
that would have been '02, and I think we did 4 or 5 camps maybe. So if you multiply that by, we had one drum major camp, and I believe there was about 50 kids there, and then 4 or 5 little satellite camps. There were probably 30 kids each at those, so around 200 kids in '02.
Okay, so
and then
that's where I was going to go with it. You started with 200. Yeah. Where are we at now, Mr. Spicer?
This past summer, we did nearly 130 camps.
So that's like as many camps as you did kids the first year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nationwide, 27 states with some international connections as well. So it's been like, I consider myself blessed. I get to be surrounded by wonderful teachers and all of that. But yeah, it's grown, it's exploded. Those camps range anywhere from, on the low end, 15 to 20 kids on a more isolated or a smaller school, all the way up to 300 and 400 and 500 kids at a camp. So, and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
And then we just staff it accordingly. So yeah, it's been quite the journey.
So, on the SASI side, you basically have a company that you run that started pretty small, you and maybe a couple other people, that's grown to reach tens of thousands of students a year with a staff of 20 to 30 plus of some of the, most prominent music educators probably in the country. So, all of those things, point to Jeremy Spicer as a successful person. And I think you mentioned like, oh, I'm blessed. And you might say, oh, I'm lucky. Like, I think a lot of successful people say that. And we could dissect what those words mean. But as you know, and as people that listen to this know, is like the hook of all these episodes is talking to really successful people about a time they created their own luck. And so I think that's a perfect opportunity to kind of segue into hearing maybe a story or a time in your life where you felt that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as you were alluding to, luck, there's so many famous quotes out there by people, but I just think it's an awareness of opportunity, that there's something out there followed by great preparation and working your butt off. to get there. And of course, along the way there, you have to surround yourself with like-minded individuals such as yourself and many of the staff. I mean, I think that's key to anyone's success is the people that they surround themselves to. That said, all successful people work their butts off, and they put themselves in a situation to be successful, at least in our opinion. But a time for me is, I think, when I left teaching officially, and I'd be curious if your opinions on that of when you left teaching. But I had a very successful career at Cedar Park High School, and then went on to Vandergrift High School and was there. And the last year or so at Vandergrift, there was this like thing in the back of my head, like, what's next? Is there something next? The company at the time, we were probably doing 40-ish camps or so. And the summer before would have been 2013. And I saw that there was an opportunity out there, going back to what luck is and awareness of opportunity. But I saw that there was an opportunity for growth. But I also knew that I had been doing this. I started in '02 and this was 2013. So I'd been doing this for the better part of 11 years, 12 years, both as an assistant band director that was running a marching band at Cedar Park, which you had done, and then moving on to being the head band director, also running the marching band at a new school, all the while being a dad. And at night, when my kids would go to sleep and my wife was reading a book or go to sleep, then I would stay up till 1, 2, or 3 in the morning working on SASI. So at some point, I knew something had to give. There's only 24 hours in a day. So I had to, it was a leap of faith of what's going to happen. Now, I talked to my wife a lot about it. We went back and forth a lot about, is this the right choice? What's going to happen if I'm no longer associated with Vandergrift or with the band world, or will SASI still be taken seriously? Like all of these imposter syndrome things in your head that goes through your head. Am I going to be relevant anymore? All of that stuff.
I relate to all of those, by the way, in that same decision-making process. So yes.
Yes, like it's tough. And well, it's one of the things that I like to talk a lot about in the summers with the kids, that when we're teaching them, because they have all of these voices in their head as well, and they think there's something wrong with them because of that. And what I try to get across to them is they're 100% normal, and that dealing with these imposter things, and the no one likes change, and everyone is uncertain about change and uncomfortable with change, but it was just a leap of faith. So my wife gave me the high five, and out the door I went. I turned in my letter of resignation and never looked back. And I mean, I miss teaching, but I get to do teaching in a different way now. I guess I should say I miss having my own band, but that's to about the extent that I miss it, because I get to do it in so many other capacities. And I get to go in and still work at the programs that I taught at, which is neat to see, and watch how they've taken it to the whole next level since when I was there. So that's fun, but that leap of faith going from 40 or 50 camps in 2014 to us growing all the way to where we are now with nearly 130 camps, and we're going to be growing again. We have other things at the University of Georgia coming this summer, and we're going to be at the University of Fresno. So we're expanding yet again. I'm thankful to say that we've never gone, a knock on wood, we've never not grown in all the years of running the company. So I just think in terms of creating my own luck, it was once I made the choice, then it was just blinders on. I'm a bulldog and we're going that way and we're going to make this happen. And some of that, I mean, for those listening out there that are parents, mothers or fathers, a lot of that in the back of my head was, well, I have to make this work now. Like there's no other option. I could go back to band directing or something else, but I have 2 kids and my wife that I have to make sure that all of us are taken care of. So no matter what, I'm going to make this happen. And it was just that dogged approach. I try not to have that come out, but that's what's in my head. Like we're going to do this, and it's a no matter what. So then you just hit the ground running. Once you make the choice to do whatever it is you're doing, then you hit the ground running and you put the things into place. And in different industries, that's going to look different, but it's all kind of the same in that you make the decision and then you follow that decision with the work. And when you do that, then lo and behold, you tend to be lucky.
Yeah, very well said. I mean, what were some of the things that you did to build the company? Like basically almost tripling the size of what's going on. There had to have been some thoughtful approach. I'm just curious sort of what that looked like.
Well, for me, it's several different things. One of the things that we do, as you know, because you're a part of the company, was we try to rebrand it yearly. Not necessarily the company, but the curriculum that's being taught. And some of it is there are some foundational modules in the curriculum that have been going on since 2002. And then there are new things that we bring every year. And that's a part of building it. When I talked about writing curriculum, that's important to me, that I think every year we write new curriculum so that the students and the directors that we serve see that we're also trying to continually improve. So when they see that and a continuous improvement from the people that they're hiring, I think they're more willing to bring us back year in and year out, versus just having a static curriculum of this is what I teach. Because the kids in '02 are completely different than the kids nowadays. And not for nothing, the kids from when I left the classroom in 2014 to now are completely different. And I would venture to say when you left the classroom 3 years ago now, right? 3 or 2? Yeah, 2 years. The children are different now than when you were in the classroom.
Yeah.
So it's me trying to continually evolve with them. One of the things that I also do, because I do have connections to high school students via being a clinician or doing this, when I go in, I'll talk to the drum majors, or I'll ask the band directors, can I talk to a couple of your student leaders just to get a feel for where they are and what are the things going on in their lives and what are the things that are important to them. Because at some point we're all going to get old or whatever, but in order to stay relevant, you have to continue to be curious. And I think if you're continue to be curious, then you can always create things for the students. So that's a big part of some of the ways that I did it. The other thing, and I say this not joking in any way, you have to surround yourself, and I've said it a couple times already, you have to get the right people on your team. And I continually am looking for people to grow the staff, because I think if you have the right people on the team, then not all of us are going to connect with everyone in the same way. You're going to connect with a certain personality different than I'm going to connect with a certain personality. And there are people, as you know, on the staff that will connect, and at face value, you may go, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's going to work. And then you get them in front of kids and they're perfect.
Yeah.
So I think part of growing the company is just making sure that there's a wide variety of people on your staff, such that when they're going out and they're working with different schools or whatever, that everyone has a different connection point. So I think that growing the staff and making sure that the right people are on the bus, and not to go down another path, but if they're not a good fit, that's also smart to maybe just part ways. And that's okay too. Like, you just have to protect what's important to you. So I try to, like I said, surround myself with the right people, and then continually write curriculum that I think will be engaging for students. I really haven't. A lot of people, I'm not a big advertiser. A lot of the stuff that we've done is word of mouth. Yeah, there's social media advertising that will occur, but I'm not a sit in a booth at a convention kind of person or any of that. I want to let the product speak for itself. And it's the same thing that's happened with the marching band design side of things. And as you were sending me text the other day, but no, one of the foundational things that I live by in my design is that excellence helps create effects. So I want to get out there. I want to give them a great product for the students to be able to achieve, and then let the rest just speak for itself. And with that, it's been constant growth. Lots of bands want me to work with them, and I want to work with a lot of them, or most of them. But there's, again, going back to so many hours in the day, I just can't do it all. So that's how I grew. That's how I grew it. Like, on the luck side of things, that's how I grew it.
Yeah,
is just continuing to write.
And being very proactive and purposeful in moving forward, I think, and like working to grow the staff and find the right people and sift through what works and what doesn't work, and just kind of grinding it out whenever you need to, so that you come out on the other side and you have something that you're proud of. Could you talk just a little bit, because I think maybe people still don't fully understand, like, what does it mean to like give a leadership sort of seminar or clinic to students, and like what are some of the takeaways? Because I think the stuff that's taught in these camps really needs to be taught to adults and everybody, and like it's really important. And the fact that young people are getting this from you and from the company is really huge. And I think it would be nice for just a little bit more kind of color on what that looks like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the main foundational things that we talk about, and it seems so simple, but it's actually not. And it's one of the very first things that the students will get out of me. There are, of course, experiential activities. One of the big things that we try to do, and that's a big word for those out there, that means get them out of their seats and doing things to learn. So we try to do that a lot. And from the very beginning, from the moment that the quote camp or seminar starts, I want it to feel nothing like school in any way, shape, or form. And that you will always have the kids that come in, you can see them with their faces, that they're there because they're being forced to be there by their band directors or the choir directors or their orchestra directors. So they're there, they're putting a face on, but you could tell they're not in it. And my goal is in the first session to get those kids, because I was that kid in high school. So my goal is I'm going to try to get them on my side in whatever way I need to get them on my side. And I'm relentless in my approach to doing that. Like I said, through experiential activities. But one of the foundational things we talk about is the value of relationships and what those relationships mean and how to forge positive relationships. And I make them write it down, and we say it, and you've taught it, and we've all taught it, is that I must have some version of a positive relationship with the people that I'm trying to lead. And then how do we get there? And if that's the foundation, then the next 1 day, 2 days, 3 days is all the things that we can do to get there. And it's not just rainbows and butterflies, and it's not just us skipping through the meadows. We immediately follow that with, how many of you have negative relationships in your life, and what do those look like, and where do those come from, and where does that stem from, and how do you manage and mitigate those negative relationships? So we're dealing with conflict resolution, we're dealing with communication, we're dealing with, problem solving. We're dealing with, and yes, there's some element of team building that goes on because they have to learn how to work as a team. And like you said, these are all skill sets that will serve them beautifully outside of their band room or outside of their band halls or their choir halls or National Honor Society or whatever part that they're in. Like, all of those things are going to serve them if they'll remember the skill sets. Beyond that, so we, through a variety of different techniques, some of it, yes, is book and conversation, some of it is different games and activities, some of it is just experiential and getting them up and moving around and doing different things to try to get them to remember the stuff that we're teaching. So that's what it looks like. It's a lot of, as I said, communication, team building, problem solving, conflict resolution, listening, and what listening actually looks like versus what most of us as humans do on a daily basis when we're quote listening. I'm to blame. Like I try to also let them know that I'm not preaching at them, and we're not preaching at them, that we all are struggling as a human society with all of these things and at any given level. And it's just, again, being sincerely curious about how to improve them. Those are the things that we're trying to teach. And these camps can go on from, some of them are 3 hours, just a short little introduction to what leadership is, and some of them can be 3 and 4 days, and where we can do more of a deep dive.
Yeah. What I think is so interesting is like all of the skills that you're talking about, teaching and listening and communicating, and especially building relationships. Everything that I experienced in business school, that's what everyone's talking about. That's what employers want in their employees. I'm in a class right now where these CFOs come in from these massive companies, and whenever anyone asks them like advice on career or whatever, it's not like, oh, learn Excel. It's build relationships. Like, literally. Yes. That's always like, oh, that's it. It's like, well, yes, but like it's a skill. And so to be teaching young people how to do that and grow, like, scaling that is really cool and exciting, because that means more people are being exposed to really important life skills and just ways of making the world a more positive place, I think. So that's great, and that's kind of why I wanted you to get into that, because it's easy to say, oh, we do a leadership camp, we do this, we do that. People might think of like drum majors with whistles and like batons or mace, whatever. But no, it's like, it's really doing a deep dive on relationships and being able to, for lack of a better word, kind of influence people around you. And I think it's very applicable to adulthood, because when you're a student leader, so if you're in a band program and you're leading people, you're leading your peers. You don't really have any like quote unquote power over them. And so if you can find ways to build those relationships and to lead effectively as a peer, then man, you've really got some stuff figured out, and you can use that for the rest of your life. Because even as you know, and as everyone listening knows, even when you are an adult and you might be a quote unquote leader or a manager or whatever, most people aren't really going to care about that title when it comes to if they respect you or not, or if they want to help you or not. What matters is how they feel about you as a person. So anyway,
That's one of the main questions that I ask the students is, why should anyone listen to you? Why should they care what you have to say?
Exactly. I know. I love when you say that, and it's so true.
The key is that they have to want. You have to create a want in them to listen to you or want to help you or whatever it is you're doing.
I think there's a massive void of good leaders in business, just in talking to classmates and all kinds of things. It's like the reason people leave their jobs is because they have bad bosses. It's not usually because they don't like the work. It's because they don't feel good at work. And I think oftentimes this happens because people who might be good at technical skills get promoted into leadership positions when those two things are not super related. Yeah, and it's interesting. I wonder if like corporate America will catch on to the idea of you have to train leaders in leadership, not just you're good at this skill, so now here's a team of 30 people, good luck, which I really think is how it goes. And there's so much waste and there's so much frustration and all turnover and all these things that don't have to happen if they had just gone to SASI camp.
Here, here.
So anyway, there's the plug for SASI, but no, it's great stuff, and what you do is amazing. I think something that again that we share in common, and we've talked about this recently, is like this idea of almost feeling like you might be too busy, but in a way kind of liking it. It's like, but yeah, exactly. But I think what I realized, it's not that you're too busy. It's that I think the times humans feel best is when they're maximally engaged in what's going on. And for I think probably both of us, it's harder to be engaged when there's less to do in a way. Yep. And I'm not sure that's true of everybody. I think it's just everyone has a different personality type. But along those lines, I think there can be a little bit of a dark side to what that can look like. I was talking to you earlier about burning the candle on both ends. I mean, I think you and I both, like if a candle had 3 ends, we've burnt all of them, at one time in our lives. So I'm curious, how do you think about working super hard to get ahead, to create your own luck without necessarily burning out or feeling bad or putting relationships on the back burner or, not being around your kids as much as you should? Like, how do you reconcile all that?
Well, if we're going to be completely honest, and the people that will eventually watch this that know me can attest or vouch for what I'm about to say, I did it by errors, by making a bunch of mistakes along the way. And my own experiential, if I'm going to use the phrase again, my own experiential learning through all of it, in that in the beginning, I just thought that if I just worked harder, I'll just keep working, I'll keep, and I'll be successful. And kind of along the thing with what you're happy not satisfied, that eventually I'll be happy with this.
Exactly.
Eventually, and it never came at all. To the sacrifice of maybe my relationship with my wife, and thankfully she put up with me, and we're into our 21 years of marriage. And in the beginning, I was just so busy that I wasn't around as much as I should have been for my kiddos when they were younger. So there was a realization somewhere along the way, thankfully, a light switch went off, or a light bulb went off in my head that went, wait a minute. You're going about this the wrong way, because you're missing the most important things for the sake of work. So it was, for me, along the way, especially when I was trying to do head band director and run this company and do all of these things and be a dad and be a husband, along the way, I had this epiphany of something had to give. Mm-hmm. And at that point, when I knew something had to give, that's when I changed my approach. And maybe that's also why the company grew, because I was in a more creative space. I was in a better place within my own being that allowed for that to happen.
I think that's a really important point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because when you're in a better place, then things tend to happen for you. So it was just, I was more connected to my wife. I was more engaged with my kids. And because of that, I was, quote, happier. and then I was able to do more for other people. So I just try to find myself, and I get in those situations even now because I am who I am. And I joke with people, and I've said it, I'm a bulldog. I know that. And like, I'm just going to go in and I'm headstrong and we're going to do the thing. And here we go. But as I've gotten older, there are some things that I've realized, like, okay, I'm about to hit a wall. And if I don't stop, or if I don't do something else, if I don't go hiking, if I don't go outside and read for several hours, if I don't go on a 2 to 3 hour walk, if I don't go sit and just be, I'm about to get to a dark place. So I think it's a personal realization for everybody that we're all going to have those moments, but these too shall pass as long as you're taking care of yourself. And we all do that in different ways. I mean, for you, obviously, with working out and finding your happy place and being around your wife and now your son, like those things are so super important. And I think once we all as humans realize what that kicker is for us, that moment, then that allows us to go there so we can get back into the work side of things when it's time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that ties into another thing I think about a lot, which is this idea of balance. And I think sometimes people think of balance as you should be balanced in all of the things all of the time. But I've found that that's not really possible or even productive. It's kind of like, I think that you have to go pretty hard into stuff and be a little unbalanced towards something, but then you kind of tip the scale back the other way for a little while away from it. Because if you're trying, I think it can be actually more stressful if you have this idea in your head that I have to be doing every self-care thing and all of my work and my family and everything in like an evenly split chart where everything's happening always all at once. And that's a real recipe for disaster. And I think people run into it a lot. And that, I think, can create burnout more than like kind of going tunnel vision almost into something, but then coming out of it and chilling for a minute, like what you were talking about. And everyone's different. But I do think it's an interesting thought there with what balance really means and what it can look like to people.
Like when we're in the heat of marching band, even when I'm doing clinics, I'll be doing clinics 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. Which I love when I do it. And yeah, I can feel myself like, right, as we're getting towards the end, but it's one of those, man, I got a week, and in a week I'm good. Like I can do this for a week, and then I'm back at it, and then I go full into vacation. Like I think it's whatever you're in at that moment, you just need to do it to the highest degree possible. And for us, for me, this past week, we went for 4 days to Colorado. And hiking was part of it, and getting out in nature was part of it, and just doing nothing was part of it. And I found myself, which was neat, when we came back on Wednesday before Thanksgiving, flew back, landed, got home about 8:30 night, whatever it was at night. And then we got up the next morning and we had to drive to Dallas. We were driving to Dallas so we could have Thanksgiving with my family.
Yeah.
So Coral and Aiden and my wife, Elizabeth, we all got in the car and we took off to Dallas. And as I'm driving and we're talking or listening to music or whatever terrible 90s stuff I'm making my kids listen to some 90s hip hop.
It's not terrible.
I know. I love it. And they love it now too, which is awesome.
There we go.
We were listening to Beastie Boys radio all the way to Dallas. But as I was driving, my brain took off.
Yep.
And that's when I knew, like, this is great. Like I want to do this with this one school. This would be perfect for them. And then I was thinking, and then this idea came about a module for this summer. And as I'm driving, that's where it's affirmation to me to go, yep, the last 5 days was absolutely worth it. Because now in random side conversations, my daughter will say something or my wife will say something and it sparks something in my brain. And then I'm like, oh, yes. And then I'll ask my wife, hey, here, can you write this down? Shoot me an email that says this, because my brain is just flying now.
Yep. That's an incredibly important point. So basically, like, you went on vacation, kind of unplugged, checked out a little bit, and then you got back, and it was like your brain was ready to go again. Whereas if you just kept pushing through, it's like, oh, it's Thanksgiving break, but I got new clients, I got to do this, I got to keep pushing. Like, you would actually get diminished returns, and you would not have as good of outcomes as if you had taken that time to unplug. But if I had to guess, when you were on vacation, it wasn't just like, totally I'm doing nothing and just kind of laying around. Like I'm sure you were plugged into what you were doing. And I bring this up because I actually had of all people, a finance professor. His name's Chris Parsons, that I talked to a little bit, and he was all big on how maximum engagement is what we as humans need over maximum leisure. The people have it in their minds that it's like, oh, I need this downtime, this leisure time, and maybe they do, but they kind of then misconstrue what that means into like do nothing time that actually ends up probably being more stressful because you're thinking of all the things that you should be doing, as opposed to engaging with nature or with whatever makes you happy, with exercising, with even if it is kind of just hanging out, but finding a way to be engaged with that. The engagement piece of it is what is so interesting. And not to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I recently also heard about a study that basically proved that people who are fully engaged in what they're doing, even if it's in an unpleasant task, were reported to be happier than people that were like daydreaming or thinking about something else, even if they were thinking about something pleasant. And it was like the engagement was what made them feel happy, even in an unpleasant task like that. I'm not surprised, but I'm surprised. Like, that's how powerful that is.
Being all in. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not one, I don't know about you on vacation, but I just can't.
No.
Like when I go to the beach, I can go to the beach for a little bit and I sit and you see all the social media, oh, the beach and the hands up, and like in real
Ellie
life,
and I are definitely
if that's
guilty of
me,
that. Yeah.
I'm 5 minutes in. Like I'm 5 minutes in and then it's like, okay, gotta go get in the water, gotta throw the football with someone, gotta
100%.
read a book, gotta
read. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can't. If I'm not reading, if I'm not doing something, like it gets hard fast. So I'm right there with you.
I have to be doing something. I'm also not. I mean, some people, and again, different people, different ways. But my wife and I were talking about it. Like, I don't completely unplug. I never really have. Some people do, like from the socials of the world or the internets of the world. But I mean, not for nothing. Growing up, the kids were plugged into video games and all of that when I was in the 90s. Like, this has always been there in some form. It's just what it looks like has changed. So when we all go on vacation, I don't not get on social media. I don't not get on the internet. Some people do, and that's great for them. But for me, it's like it's a source of entertainment. Like after I'm done reading or hiking or whatever, I'll get on and see what's going on in the world. Like, it's fine, whatever. It's again, whatever works for you, I think is what is important.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And kind of circling back to another point you were mentioning earlier, sort of two things tied together, but this idea of I'll be happy once it's funny that I think you and I had similar realizations of like, yeah, I might be successful, but like for what? Like I'm not even enjoying this because all I can think about is what I have to do next, what I have to achieve next. Like, what's the next thing I can do? And like, you're like a drug addict addicted to hitting these milestones, but you don't even get the high anymore. It's just like somewhat of a relief and like, all right, well, what's next?
That's how in 2013 I remember distinctly, and I've told this story to several people, but like they called us in first after winning the state marching contest, and like Mike and I and Paul and Stephanie Grody, and we all hugged. Holly Lyons was there, and like this was great, and we were walking over to the kids to congratulate and high fives and do pictures and all of that, and this one band mom basically ran up and tackled me, and she's like, "We did it, you did it!" Blah. She's hugging me and all of this. And all that was going through my brain, it was kind of like this fog of like, wow, we did it. Now what?
Yeah.
Like, what's next?
Gosh. Yeah.
Exactly what you're talking about. And that's in my brain, I'm going like, God dang. Like, can I not just be in this moment? And even then, in the Alamo Dome, I remember
like within minutes of winning this massive thing, you were already experiencing it.
Yes. And almost immediately I was feeling, okay, what's next? What do I have to do now? Wow, we did that. That was really cool. And maybe I shouldn't be sharing that, but that's what was going through my brain at the time.
I'm glad you shared it, and I can 100% relate to that, if anyone can, for sure. So I feel like you have like improved that a lot within yourself. So like, where is your mind at now? How do you deal with those thoughts, or how do you approach life now to not feel that way?
I guess, it's cheesy, but I don't know. It just, maybe it's a platitude, but just try to live in the moment. I try to be where I am. The be here now, the quote, or whatever that is. I just try to do that. I don't want to come across as like saying a Hallmark quote or something,
right.
but
that's
what I do. Yeah, exactly. There are banal platitudes for a reason, and many of that is because it's true.
Yeah.
So I just try to, whatever I'm doing, be all in that moment with it, wherever that is. And I think that's helped me for, as you said, to find quote balance or whatever, and and to quote, find happiness, like,
Yeah.
and connection. I think a lot of that, like when are we going to be happy and all of that, like happiness is created in those small moments and what those look like. And it could be anything. It could be, we had some people over the house yesterday and I got to cook a brisket and 4 racks of ribs. And like that, I was in my happy moment for a while. And then they came over and there's just something about hanging over food, and everyone loved all the food that we made. And like, I was all in at that moment, and everyone wanted to bring other things. But because again, I know my personality, I was like, nope, don't worry about it. I want to do it all. Cause I just like doing that. And I like helping and serving and doing that kind of thing. So that, for me, I just try to remember that, and just when at all possible, live in the moment for whatever it is that moment is.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think, this idea of happy not satisfied, it's kind of something different to a lot of people, but it's sort of going to bed proud of what you did that day while looking forward to what you get to do and improve the next day. And I feel like you certainly embody that. And I think that, at least for me and maybe for you too, it's like once you finally convince yourself, and again, it's sort of cliche, but it's like, it's about the process, not the destination, right? It's the journey, everyone says, and all that stuff. But like, again, you hear that because it's from people that probably lived through similar mindsets that you and I did, couldn't stand feeling like that anymore, and then knew there had to be something different, and then started talking about it, and so
Yeah.
like and then everyone kind of comes to the same result in a different way, and they might talk about it differently, but ultimately it's what you're talking about, living in the moment. It's leaning into the process, enjoying getting better at things, knowing that achievements are going to come along the way, and probably even more significantly when you stop thinking so much just about the achievements. I think it's hard. The hardest part for me, and I think I'm much better now, is that like it takes this weird trust. It's like, if I'm not worrying about this thing, then it's not going to happen. If I'm not obsessing over it, then we're not going to get there. But really, it does nothing. It makes you worse.
Yeah,
It
it
makes you
doesn't help.
distracted. It makes you not think about the process of what you're doing to get there in the first place. So I think people that struggle with this, like, you have to, like you said earlier, take that leap of faith. And it's funny you said that, because when I decided I was going to leave teaching at Reagan, Richard Floyd, who anyone in the band business, so to speak, would know who that is. He's an absolute legend. I didn't know how he was going to take it. I don't know what he was going to say. It's like, he was a mentor of mine. I thought maybe he'd be just disappointed a little bit. And he just looked at me and said, "Leap and the net will appear." And I was like, that was exactly what I needed to hear right now. And
Yeah.
I thought about that literally every day since. So, leap in terms of how you think about your day to day. Take a little bit of a chance, do something different. Like, trust that you can try something and shift your mindset, and it might work out for the better. As someone that didn't used to believe that has worked really hard to try to believe that, that would be my 2 cents on this whole conversation.
For sure. And it's also, for people out there, it's okay to change your mind.
Yeah.
And I think people, they get wrapped up in, others are going to be upset with me if I don't, I said I was going to do this, but it's okay. Like, yes, you need to follow through. And I don't want that to be misconstrued as you're not going to do what you say you're going to do, but it's okay to change your mind. And we don't know everything. And you make a decision based on what you knew at that point, and then you learn new things, and then you
Exactly.
change your mind.
You
And
learn
that's
new
okay.
things. You get older, you mature, you grow, and then suddenly, I look back at myself 5 years ago and I'm like, who is that person? And I think, I hope in 5 years I look back at myself today and have the same thought. I think that's healthy. That's how it should be.
Yeah, because if not, what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what are we doing? that's the $1,000,000 question. Oh,
It's this thing called life.
yeah,
Exactly. What are we
exactly,
doing?
exactly. We could talk about it ad nauseum, but at the end of the day, you just kind of got to figure out what makes you move forward and improve and do all those things that make you find that engagement in life. But anyway, this has been a real pleasure, and I appreciate you taking some time out of the 9 different things that you're constantly doing to hop on here and just have a little philosophical chat with me. So thank you so much for
Absolutely.
joining. For people that like are listening and are interested, I mean, obviously this, like, where can they find stuff about SASI or about you or anywhere you would want anyone to go? Tell us about
I
it.
mean, you could just Google Jeremy Spicer or Sassy, but my website, studentsleading.org. Students is plural, students, leading.org. and there's going to be a rebranding of the company coming this year to for what you said, that maybe the corporate world needs to be teaching some of these things, and we're going to be getting out into some corporate leadership as well. So yeah, you can look me up there, and you can find me on my website and on all the social medias and things. You can find SASI leadership or student leadership, both of those things you'll find me. But yeah, studentsleading.org, check it out. I'd love to help. We'd love to help. I say but there's a team of us. We'd love to help you and your organization, and it's not just music organizations, it's all organizations. So yeah, love to help.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that about like the corporate thing, because I was going to say, I know what you're doing doesn't only apply to high school marching band student leaders. It applies to everybody, and I know that everyone needs this. So don't think, oh, I'm not a band director, I can't use this. Like, you could use this. You could definitely use this.
Absolutely.
So
Give us a shot.
Yeah, 100%. I can testify as someone that's taught the curriculum and had students receive it that it's worthwhile. So yeah, thanks again. And if anyone's interested in Happy Not Satisfied, check out our website, happynotsatisfied.com, or on Instagram, it is at happy.notsatisfied. So Jeremy, thank you again so much. I look forward to hopefully hanging with you maybe at TMEA in February or something in person. But thanks for doing this, and I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Peace. Bye.